For over 2 millennia, following Aristotle, we've treated formal logic as a discrete, specialized faculty of the human mind, a system built entirely on language, syntax, and symbolic propositions. But the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM, proposes a completely different starting point. Reasoning exists long before anyone speaks a word. Those symbolic propositions are only the highest surface manifestation of a continuous, regulatory biological architecture operating throughout the entire brain. This underlying system is called organizational logic. It is a deep, survival-driven evaluation process that every biological organism uses to distinguish correct from incorrect organization, starting right at the level of basic sensation. If reasoning precedes language, then all human cognition, from the instant we detect a shadow to the moment we solve a philosophical equation, must run on a single, continuous biological engine. This diagram illustrates the hierarchical emergence of cognitive organization. We start with sensory strain, organizing into sensation, perception, feeling, intuition, and cognition. Each level inherits and recursively reorganizes the geometry below it into a tighter, higher-order structure. The brain never toggles between distinct modes. These layers operate simultaneously, feeding into one another as a single recursive continuum. To understand how this continuum actually generates thought, we have to isolate the specific physical law driving its movement. Cognitive organization follows two topological tendencies. First, minimizing dispersion pulls data together, integrating chaotic inputs. It stabilizes experiences into a dense attractor, a concept. Second, maximizing dispersion pushes data apart. It unpacks concepts outward into a wide distribution of possibilities, driving imagination and prediction. Neither process functions alone. Every stable cognitive state requires a homeostatic balance between them. This continuous dynamic equilibrium of dispersion is the exact physical engine that constructs human knowledge. Let's trace the constructive direction first. Bottom-up organizational compression. Watch how this organism processes its environment, reacting to sudden sounds and shifting shapes. Over time, numerous distributed sensory encounters with a predator are progressively integrated into a stable perceptual attractor. Through repeated exposure, this stable attractor becomes the biological concept of danger. The organism understands the threat entirely without language. This diagram illustrates how biological compression maps directly to the classical logical concept of induction. Just as inductive logic uses multiple observations to forge a general rule, the brain compresses scattered sensory data into a singular, glowing conceptual node. Logical induction is not a philosophical invention. It is a biological mechanism for compressing environmental chaos into survivable rules. But the constructive direction is only half the engine. There is an equally critical reverse mechanism, top-down organizational expansion. This visualization shows the inverse process. A stable conceptual attractor unfolds downward, regenerating into a vast web of lower-level sensory and perceptual organizations. This mirrors deduction. A general concept predicts lower-level consequences, lighting up anticipated pathways for sounds or movements before they happen. Remarkably, this exact same expansion mechanism is responsible for generating dreams. During sleep, there is no external sensory input. A dream occurs when an organizational attractor expands downward into vivid perceptual simulations, entirely from within. We use this exact pathway when wide awake, for scientific planning, hypothetical reasoning, and motor preparation. They all rely on this top-down cascade to imagine future physical states. Abstract deduction and vivid dreaming are identical mechanical processes. They differ only in their external sensory feedback loops. Joining these two directions creates the recursive organizational oscillation. It's a continuous figure 8, where data flows endlessly from experience up to concept and back down to simulation. Learning compresses the data, prediction expands it outward, and resulting action creates new experience. Within this loop is a critical variable, residence time. It's the duration the system dwells within specific organizational fields. The flow stalls at the center for deep conceptual integration and races through the outer loops for rapid surface-level adaptation. The qualitative texture and depth of human consciousness is directly determined by this oscillatory rhythm, and the exact time the brain resides in each state. As this system builds higher cognitive capacities, it restructures the older, lower-level organizations without ever replacing them. We see striking parallels to this in historical metaphysics, specifically the concept of substantial motion, developed by the 17th century Persian philosopher Mulla Sadra. Sadra argued that existence is an ongoing process of transformation, where acquiring knowledge literally and existentially reorganizes the internal network of the knower. Whether viewed through modern neuroscience or historical metaphysics, cognitive evolution is an accumulation of nested layers, not a sequence of replacements. This diagram scales the principle of recursive oscillation up to the evolution of human civilization. We see base layers of myth and religion continually interacting through vertical feedback loops with active upper layers of philosophy, science, and technology. Just as a concept in the brain unfolds into predictions, a single philosophical concept in society expands top-down to generate multiple new technologies and social structures. Simultaneously, diverse cultural experiences are compressed bottom-up into unifying myths or overarching scientific theories. Which brings us to the ultimate conclusion regarding classical reason. Formal logic is not an independent software running on neural hardware. Logic is merely the topmost structural fold of a universal biological engine, a system inherently designed to compress the chaos of reality into concepts and expand those concepts into action.